What's up, Dan? I see your message. Torpedo bats. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest. Again, it's just one of those ways where, I've said, Dan, like in 10 years, it's not even going to be called baseball anymore. It's going to be like a different sport. It's not even going to be the same. It's not. It's like it's already so much more different than it was 8 years ago. That like it doesn't. There doesn't need to be that many more changes to just be a totally different sport. It like already is. What's up, Coog? What's up, Canes? It's funny. We had a game. We did have a game that was going to come up, or that was later today, but it's raining really hard. It just got canceled. The Marlins games were fun to watch this weekend. Buck present. Welcome back, Buck. Do not know one player on the team, but it was good to see us win with 3 walk-offs. Yeah. That's not a good recipe for winning long term, though. Won our second tourney in a row this weekend. Now 8-0 with full PG starting this coming weekend. Nice, nice. All right, let me see here. I was reading something. All right. It was spring break in. All right, let me bring this up. Why am I not showing you guys the chat? All right, it was spring break in Palm Beach County, and we went up to the Panhandle beaches. But watch the top 10 JUCO matchup between Northwest Florida and Gulf Coast State. Really cool, great arms. Yeah, I mean it's lights out baseball. Canes found a way to win the last game of the series. I don't think UNC is a top 25 team. They are not a good team. I think UNC is a top 25 team, but they definitely they're not like the elite team so far. They're not playing like the elite team that people thought they were at the beginning of the year. My son hasn't given up any earned runs in 5 of his last 6 outings, really coming together. The TBR stuff has helped not only velo, but command. Nice. They are very suspect. Dan, did you meet Zach at the game? Zach from the chat, he goes to most of the Gulf Coast games. Derek, what's up, man? How you doing? Yeah, it's pouring out here right now, so... Are schools allowed to contact players who are committed? Yeah, they are. It's very, especially in baseball, it's very, very, very frowned upon, but it does happen. And it's becoming more common that schools, what's called poaching, whereas like you're going to a kid who's committed to another school and trying to get him to decommit and then commit to you. that would be poaching. That's very, very frowned upon in college baseball, but it's becoming a more common thing with just how transactional everything is now. So it is. You are seeing it more and more, Derek. But there's nothing against it. There's nothing. It's not like a violation or anything like that. This is without a doubt the worst UNC team we've played in a while. No hitters. Pitching is also not very good. Interesting. You know, it's weird, Canes, because, that's like the opposite of what everyone thought was going to happen. Because remember, they had 2 freshmen in their starting rotation last year who both did really well. So the thought is like these guys are going to be even better this year. And again, like it's still, we're getting towards the halfway point of the ACC schedule, but this is where, like I've told you guys in years past, like NC State always kind of first 3 series, you're like, oh, they're not going to do fine. They're not going to do well. And then they just dominate the last 6 series of the ACC schedule. So like this coming up weekend is the time to get it. And I will say, like UNC, maybe you think UNC should have swept you guys, but a series win is a series win. And series win, you stack enough of those up, like you're going to be fine. So we still kind of have to wait, right? I'm doing good, Derek. I'm a little bit bummed. So the funny thing is the game tonight was at my old high school, and my numbers were tired and up there. So I was just looking forward to going back and seeing some people I knew in the game, and just like getting to play the game, and there's nothing more fun than game days. But it looks like it's going to be rescheduled for maybe later in the week. But besides that, doing good. That's funny. I had no idea. We were there on Thursday night. And noticed there was a picture there from Stoneman Douglas also watching. A picture there from Stoneman Douglas. No, we should have swept them. Their coach cost them in Game 3, leaving his pitcher in far too long. Well, I mean, Canes, again, remember we talked about this with Miami, is that sometimes, like, you don't have the availability card. Like you don't know, and if you've watched, again, like even if you've watched the whole series, you just don't know, hey, why didn't they go to this arm? Well, maybe he's like not available that day because something's bothering him or whatever. So you just never know. So maybe there's a reason they left him in longer than even maybe they're sitting there thinking like, I don't want to leave him in, but like he's still probably the best guy we got for right now. So you just don't know. I mean, you really just don't know. Man, how about Stanford's fall off, man? It like they came out of the gate swinging and just have, the last couple series have not played well. They're 5-7 in ACC now, and they'll face Georgia Tech this coming weekend. Bullpens were fresh. Both teams didn't use any arms in Game 1. Both pitchers went 9 innings. In Game 2, both teams used 3 pitchers. Oh, well. Well, I mean, still, they could have, like, a lot of times, guys, they don't release a lot of stuff to the public. Like if guys are dealing with nagging injuries. And so it could have been a situation where just they didn't have a lot of, like, the arms that you would expect them to be putting in, they didn't have available. Again, that's just guessing, but you are right offensively, though, Canes. Like they are, I'll pull it up. UNC is really struggling offensively. They got, they're hitting 269 as a team. On base percentage is under 400. They are stealing a good amount of bags. But they're just not hitting at a high enough level. I mean, they're hitting 269 as a team. It's just tough to score enough runs when you're doing that. And they have 185 runs scored in 28 games. So I mean, you know, they're averaging about 6 runs a game. Which is low. But I will say this. Their starting pitching has been very, very good. DeCaro has really kind of turned the corner. His ERA is down to a 3.8. You look at Aiden Howe, whatever, 1.69 ERA. Jake Knapp, 1.63 ERA. These guys are all pitching at a very high level. It's just the offense right now for UNC is holding them back. I mean, they have a 1.16 whip as a staff. Like, pitching-wise, they're killing it. It's just the offense is struggling. So I do think UNC, again, if... Dusty, you know when we go live. Do you guys have sports advisors in Arizona and the Pacific Northwest? How can you become an advisor with Elite Sports Advising? We are actually looking to hire guys out there right now. It's a pretty selective process, Derek, just so you know. I mean, we want guys with high-level baseball experience and stuff like that, but we're looking to add guys over there right now. Hughes had 95 pitches in 9 innings, and he should have had 84, 85. He was electric. Yeah, I mean, like, UNC's pitching staff is elite, just by the numbers. They're not striking out a whole lot of guys, like 268 and 248 innings, but they have 0 walks. They have 88 walks and 250 innings pitched. So again, if UNC's offense gets going, like, they're a very good team. They also played the Miami Hurricanes, not Georgia Tech or Florida State. Yeah, I mean, sure, but still. Like, they're playing well as a pitching staff. They're just not scoring a lot of runs. They're scoring like a little over 6 runs per game, which is tough. But that's the thing to watch. The thing to watch is if that offense can get going, oof, they're going to be scary later in the season. All right, watch this clip. This is hilarious. So this is in the Southern Miss. Forget who they were playing. But this is another example, guys, of baseball IQ. And I think Kane sent me this earlier. So this is a tie game, extra innings, or in the 9th. I can't remember which inning it is. But 1 out or no outs, whatever it is. Bases juiced. Got to throw this guy out of the plate to keep the game alive. But look at where this ball ends up. This ball would have been foul. So you have to let this fall because you're probably not going to throw a guy out from 30 feet in front of the track. You're just, generally speaking, if it's 300 and let's say it's 330 down the line or 320. I mean, this is a 300-foot throw. This is a football field long throw. But the best part about this clip, watch where the throw goes. The throw went into the stands. I mean, look at this throw, man. I mean, oh man, that's a funny throw. I had to show that. But again, another example of, like, you just have to let that fall. Because you're probably not throwing the guy out no matter what. We should have had so many walks. Instead, we're swinging at the sky for ball 4. Yeah, and that is something you're seeing more and more is guys' discipline on pitches up out of the zone is really bad across the board. He was doing long toss. Yeah, I mean, it's like the throw. I mean, he let it eat. Yeah, I mean, that was a complete, just perfect game showcase throw from right field. How many strikes were on that hitter? That's a good question. I can't see from the clip. I know Kane sent me it, maybe. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, that throw is pretty hilarious. The clip Kane sent me doesn't have the strike on it. I don't know if you guys saw this. Here's another interesting clip. So in the A&M Kentucky finale, they're playing at A&M, and Kentucky's up 10-5 in the bottom of the 8th. And there's a travel curfew at 4:30, I believe. So basically, guys, how the travel curfew works is once you get past 4:30, another inning cannot start. So if, let's say, so Kentucky here has 2 outs, bottom of the 8th, and I think at the start of this clip, there's like a minute or 2 before the curfew goes into full effect. And A&M staff is getting mad at Nick Mingione at Kentucky because they're delaying the game on purpose. They're having meetings.
There's nothing good about all that. It's completely legal.
This won't sit well with the other side. This is why the warning should have been set 2 innings ago. Yeah, now Nick Mingione's firing back.
And so inevitably what happens is Kentucky takes long enough that this is the final inning of the game. But again, like this is what, like if you're trying to win the series and there's a travel curfew and you're up 10-5, you're like, hey, we'll take the win without having to play another inning. But I can imagine it being frustrating for A&M because they obviously want to have one more shot. But a big series next weekend is A&M versus Tennessee. So A&M is now 1-8 in the SEC, and they go to play Tennessee this weekend. So here's the full situation. I'll let you guys hear it. Yeah, it's 10-5 in the 8th. I know, Dusty. It's a little bit like... This is the full clip.
I've never come down to the wire never seen the game come down like this.
This is one of the more interesting dynamics I've seen in quite some time.
20 seconds. So this clock is ticking. I guarantee you, you're going to see Novi take all 20 seconds.
There's like 1 minute left now.
At this point, if you're Ben Royal, do you just swing at 3 pitches?
It won't matter. 20 seconds, it's over.
Well, he pulled back on a pitch. Out of the zone.
45 seconds.
It's like basketball now. The clock is ticking.
He should have whiffed. I don't think he can get there.
Yeah, I don't know if you...
Now the catcher needs an intentional walk. You want to throw balls here.
Oh, this meeting on the mound. Now, Mike Early has something to say about this. Well, that'll do it. This is A&M's last chance now. And Mike Early may be directing this at Nick Mingione.
But the thing is this, like, let's say the roles were reversed and it was A&M. Like, I think they'd be doing the same thing. Right? Like they'd be doing the exact same thing. You'd be playing the clock.
You have to know if you're Mingione, this won't sit well with the other side.
This is why the warning should have been said 2 innings ago.
Yeah, now Nick Mingione's firing back. now here's my question. Is there a post-game handshake, and what does that look like?
Well, if there is, it ain't going to be pleasant. I would guess probably not.
Are there more words exchanged if there is?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
I'm pretty sure you're going to have the umpire.
These announcers just teeing it up for the
yeah, for sure.
post-game conference.
Nick Mingione has a history of not making friends here at Bluebell Park, so this is.
I mean, it's kind of Bush League, but why draw the line here? Add it to the list of all the other Bush League things that happen in college baseball.
Kentucky, it got pretty heated late in that series.
Yeah, and the thing is, yeah, I mean, of course, and like if I was on A&M's staff, I'd be upset, but like you're probably having the exact same conversation if the roles are reversed, and you're probably saying, hey, like at 4:30, like it gets to 4:30, we're not starting another game. The game's over. We're not starting another inning. The game's over.
It looked a lot like this.
Well, my
back in two. Bender up to center field, tracking back at the track, at the wall, and making the catch up against the wall in center field, Griffin Cameron, and that will end the ball game. The Wildcats win it.
And also think about this, guys. Like, let's just say, and nothing ends up happening in this handshake. They just,
I guess you'd call it.
Nothing happens. But think about it like this. If Nick Mingione doesn't play the clock, let's say he's just like, yeah, let's just, there's 2 minutes before the game's going to basically be over. Let's just pitch it to him. Let's just let him get out. Like, and then all of a sudden A&M comes back and wins it. I mean, that's him on the hot. That's him being like his entire fan base, the administration be like, hey, why didn't you guys just like delay it out? Right? So it's like, again, I just think it's one of those situations you hate being in that situation. The team who's down is going to hate it. They're going to get upset. But ultimately, if the roles reversed, you'd be doing the exact same thing. And it's just one of those, like, when you know that there's a curfew in effect, after all that, nothing happened in the handshake line. Good God. Yeah, nothing happened. So Kendall Rogers says, with the series loss, A&M drops to 1-8 in the SEC, has to go to Tennessee next weekend in Knoxville. At least dating back to 1996, no preseason number one team has missed the NCAA tournament. Even getting in contention would require an incredible run by A&M. Yeah, so A&M, to get to 13 wins, has to go 12-9 the remaining part of the way. So, like, again, let's say they win one at Tennessee, they go 1-2. They're 2-10 at that point, and they have to go 11. They have to go 11-7 the remaining point, or the remaining way, just to get to 13 wins. And that's, again, that means you're like you may be one of the last teams in. After all that, nothing happened. Buck, just reiterating my prediction, A&M will not get to 10 SEC wins. Yeah, I mean, listen, A&M is like, there's a good chance they go to Tennessee and get swept, right? And then it's just like if you run that scenario, you're 1-11 SEC play. You have 9 games left. You have to win no, you don't have 9. Sorry. You have 18 games left. And you're 1-11. So you have to go 12-6 the remaining way. Jose Ruiz, what do you think about Zabrowski from Georgia? I mean, he's killing it. He's been big in big situations. There's no other way to say it. I mean, he's been one of the best players in college baseball. Hitting a bunch of home runs, hitting for high average, drawing a lot of walks. Like, he's just doing a fantastic job. And Georgia's legit, man. It seems like they've kind of figured out the starting pitching. They've moved some guys from the bullpen they've moved around some guys in the rotation, and this past weekend they looked really good on the mound. Way better than they had. I'm hearing a shuffle for the GT weekend rotation, Kyle. What are you hearing, Dust? And while we're waiting for Dusty to potentially give us some info, like he sometimes does, sometimes he kind of teases us with it. All right, let's look at the new top 25 according to D1 Baseball. All right. So no surprise up here. Nobody moved up here. Top 4 teams are all the same. Texas jumps from number 7 to number 5. Clemson stays at 6 after winning the really close series against Georgia Tech. LSU moves up 1 place to 7th. Alabama moves up from 12th to 8th. Ole Miss moves up to 9 from 15. Oklahoma drops from 9 to 10 after losing a close series against Alabama. Oregon State, who I said last week, I'm just saying, I don't know. Like I don't know why they're ranked so high. They're going to have to really their schedule is just very soft. And then they have a couple losses on the week, so they dropped from number 5 to 11. Irvine has just been dominating, goes from 19 to 12. Southern Miss stays at 13. UCLA goes 4-0, is up to number 14 in the country. Oregon 15 dropped from 10th to 15th. Auburn drops from 11th to 16th after getting swept by Georgia, I believe. We'll check right here. Yeah, Georgia swept them. Dallas Baptist split the week. They stay at 17, though. Louisville stays at 18. North Carolina goes to 19 from 21 after the series went over Miami. Troy goes from 22nd to 20th. Coastal, not ranked to 21st. Kansas State, not ranked to 22nd. Vandy drops all the way from 14 to 23. Pretty big drop. Arizona State makes its way into the top 25 after a 3-1 week. And then Georgia Tech stays at 25 after losing the series to Clemson. But again, it was basically the type of game. It was a type of series where like legitimately Georgia Tech had a chance to sweep if they just played clean baseball. And again, on Sunday, game 2, they just kind of, you're winning the game in the 9th inning and you lose. So there's no move for Georgia Tech, which is not surprising because they played Clemson, who's considered one of the best teams in the country, extremely close. Wake Forest dropped out. Pretty crazy drop for Wake Forest. They, I think, got swept by Virginia Tech. But dang, I mean, from 16th all the way out, that's crazy. It's a crazy drop. Stanford drops. Arizona drops. Dusty, you going to tell us what you're hearing or what? Jose, how different is the recruiting process from high school, JUCO, or even D2, D3 to D1? I mean, well, from high school, obviously, it's way harder now from high school to get to a really good D1 program. It's just, there's smaller rosters starting next year. You're competing against portal guys who are 22, 23 years old. Look at Georgia's offense. It's all seniors and grad transfers. Like they're all in their 4th and 5th year in college baseball. So it's hard as a freshman. Georgia's got some really talented freshmen on that team and they're not playing. Right. So it's way, way more difficult. And then from JUCO to D2 or D3 to D1, it's just all about your track record and performance. Like, have you put up really good numbers? Wake all the way out is surprising. Yeah, I can't believe Wake fell that far. Like that to me is kind of crazy. Again, because I think Virginia Tech is just way better than people give them credit. So it's just strange. And to be honest, with Virginia Tech sweeping, you would think VT maybe finds its way into the rankings, but they don't. Really, really crazy drop for Wake Forest. Just to be completely honest, Auburn dropped five 5 places, but they got swept by top 4 team in the country, number 3. So I mean, it makes sense they didn't drop as much as Wake, but like for Wake Forest to be totally out of the top 25 is a little bit crazy in my opinion. Wake Forest is another team that is not good. They are solid, and that is about it. Canes, you're a hater, man. You're a hater. You're a hater. I love seeing the Arizona, Cali, and Oregon schools in the top 25. Let's go. Yeah, they're doing well right now. Dusty, are you going to tell us what you're hearing about a shuffle for the Georgia Tech rotation? Or are you just, let's see what the 64 analytics top 25 looks like. All right, here's the 64 analytics top 25, guys. Let's see what we think here. All right, Tennessee 1. These are all the same. LSU 5, Florida State 6, Clemson 7. So 64 analytics really valuing the SEC boys. Then you got Alabama, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. So the SEC makes up 8 of the top 10. And then you have Kansas State, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Arizona State, Wake Forest, West Virginia, Iowa, Oregon State, Oregon, Arizona, Auburn, DBU, Kansas, Louisville, UCLA. And again, I think, obviously this is just purely off of the stats and all that stuff. But I do think Virginia Tech not being ranked after sweeping Wake Forest it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. I got the 75 days until Omaha email over the weekend, planning my trip. Nice. There's no hating, brother. Miami is a literally terrible team, and we should have won the series against Wake and UNC. Both are solid, and that is it. Well, I think, Canes, what you have to understand is that, like, Miami's pitching has still been pretty good. Like, when you go into Miami, like, Hughes is legit. Hughes is really tough to beat. So Miami is going to be a team that, they're going to be a little bit tougher to sweep, and teams offensively are not going to look as good against Miami because their pitching has done a pretty good job. We could be looking at 6 SEC and 2 ACC in Omaha. Jose, would you rather go to a low mid-major or a top JUCO? I mean, it depends, man. It depends. It's like there's so much nuance in everything that I can't just give you an answer on that without knowing the player involved, the 2 teams involved, like what low mid-major, what top JUCO, what does their current roster look like? What are the coaches actually saying to you? Because there's ways coaches talk to certain recruits where you get the feeling like, okay, they really love this guy. Like, they love this guy. So, like, it's all about where are you going to get the best chance to play right away? And it just depends on what those 2 teams look like right now and the roster makeup and everything like that. One of the things I'm actually really surprised about, like, I figured it might not come out a days or 2 after, but I'm really surprised that Kendall Rogers has not released like a a candidates article for the Georgia Tech job. Now, honestly, he could be waiting to see if they announce James Ramsey at some point here. But it's like I said, guys, I think if nothing gets announced this week, then to me, they're probably going to be doing an interview process after the season. Just because, like I said, I mean, if you think he's the guy, you're gonna make that announcement so every recruit knows, all the guys that are committed in the 26 class, 25 class, etc. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this week if something like that is going to be announced. But I'm really surprised that Kendall Rogers hasn't like made an art. Maybe he has. I haven't seen it. Kyle, are you still thinking they announced Ramsey today as head coach in waiting? What a ridiculous claim that was by you. Dusty, why are you being so ridiculous? All I'm saying is if they think he's the guy, they will announce him. There's no reason to wait. If in the AD's office they're saying, yeah, we're going to go with James, they're not going to wait till the end of the season to announce that. And actually, Danny Hall did say in an interview after the announcement that he's already told Jay Batt who he thinks should be the next head coach. Now, he didn't say who, but he's already told Jay Batt. And he basically was like, I think he values my opinion, but, it's ultimately his decision. I asked Joe Headley from the SEC side of D1 baseball. He said he would be shocked if Ramsey isn't the guy. Buck, food at restaurant kitchen table in Omaha is the best. What's up, Cap? Dusty, because I'm still pissed off from this past weekend, that's why. Yeah, I get it. It was disappointing in the sense that, you had the series won in the ninth inning. You just had to get 3 outs. But aren't you guys a little surprised there isn't like Kendall Rogers? Usually it's like a coaching announcement like that happens and it's like, who are the next candidates? And I'll say it like this. When Coastal's legendary head coach announced he was going to be retiring at the end of the year, Coastal immediately said Kevin Schnall is going to be the next. He's going to be he was the associate head coach. He's going to be the new head coach. So it was instant at Coastal. They were not going to do a national search. They were like, we're going to go with Kevin. So that's what I'm saying is if Georgia Tech, if the administration's like, yeah, he's our guy, they're going to announce it. It's going to be quick because there's no reason to let it drag on and let rumors start spreading and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden recruits start, maybe a few recruits decommit because they don't know what's going on. And then it impacts you more than it has to. So again, I think like if it doesn't happen this week, like you're starting to think, all right, maybe they're going to interview guys. Better announce quick, Dusty, or I'll start tagging our coaches in your recruits' tweets. Try to flip them. Oh my God. Cap, thanks. I haven't been there yet. We'll put on my list for this year. How important do you think it is to play multiple positions at least an average level? I mean, It's vitally important. And I'll give you an example. I mean, look at Hernandez at Georgia Tech. The freshman, he's leading all freshmen in home runs. And one of the reasons he was able to just like stay in the lineup is because they've played him all over the field. They've played him at first, they've played him at second, they've played him in the outfield. I think they may even have played him a game or two at third. I could be wrong. And he's pitched. So the more you're way more valuable if you can like you said, Jose, you got to be able to play them at least an average level for that position in college. But it makes you just way easier to slot into the lineup. Like, if this guy's struggling and we want to bring in another guy, well, we can move him here, and then you're still in the lineup, right? So the more the more diverse you are in your position flexibility, it just makes it easier to slot you into the lineup. And so, like Alex Hernandez, that's the reason he's been in the line. Obviously, as soon as he started hitting well, he was going to stay in the lineup, but it's made Georgia Tech's team way better because they know they can move him around a bunch of different positions. So if the left fielder starts struggling, we'll put Alex in left field and we'll bring in maybe the next best hitter is our second baseman. All right, we'll bring in the second baseman. It just makes it to where your team, not only are you going to have a better chance of sticking in the lineup, but your team can also be better overall because you can play a bunch of different positions. So reading through some of the D1 baseball chat from this week, Aaron Fitz seems to be saying that he believes in ACC play, if you're 16 or 17 wins, you're in the hosting mix. So that to me would say if you're at 18 wins, you're going to be a host in the ACC. Hey, so if you guys want to know how tough the A&M schedule is going forward, they go to Tennessee, then they play Missouri, which is probably their easiest their easiest weekend matchup all year. Then they play South Carolina. And then they go Arkansas, Georgia, LSU, Texas. Now, if you're not keeping track, those are 4 teams that are all like in the top 6 or 7 in the country. So out of their final 7 series in the SEC, 5 of them are against like top 7 teams. That's tough. It's interesting. You kind of don't see any. There's just no conversation about the Georgia Tech job really anywhere. Do you think other teams are reaching out to Miami's, A&M's, and South Carolina's 2025 commits and trying to flip them? What is the percentage you would put on it? Well, I mean, first of all, again, recruiting super subjective. So like just because a high ranked guy that's committed to Miami or A&M or South Carolina, like other teams may be like, oh, we don't think they're that good. So that's a thing. Are there going to be people that maybe try to poach? Yeah, there's going to be. Like it happens. Again, it's really frowned upon. And you think about like in the coaching world, like you want to have as many friends as possible because things go wrong and all of a sudden you may need a job at some point. So you don't want to be the guy that was like poaching everybody's commits because then when all of a sudden something goes wrong and you're looking for a coaching job somewhere and the guy's like, I don't think so. So I think it's almost kind of policed by the coaches themselves, just like, hey, don't do that. But it'll happen. Some people are willing to do it. And if you were a coach on one of those teams, how do you counter the negative recruiting? Well, you got it. The way you counter it is you stay in contact with your recruits, which is what every team does. Even though they're committed, and even after they've signed their, not the national letter of intent anymore, but their piece of paper they sign now, you're still staying in contact with those guys to make sure they feel like they're getting the love and everything like that. Because again, everything's so transactional nowadays that you don't call a recruit for a few weeks or a month. All of a sudden, like that recruit may start thinking, oh, they don't like me that much, even though like they committed you and gave you a 50% scholarship. Like they obviously like you. GT has 7 guys hitting north of 320. Just insanity. Yeah, and I think it's also something of note from this past weekend to remember is that Georgia Tech was without Kent Schmidt all 3 games. And so, I mean, that's not a small loss. He was leading the team in hitting, 415. He's missed 7 games now. And 26 RBIs in 21 games, 11 doubles, 2 home runs, 12 walks, 12 strikeouts. Like that's a big guy to miss against Clemson, who is the highest ranked opponent Georgia Tech will face as of right now, or already faced. So if you think about this past weekend, is the difference of having Kent Schmidt back in the lineup, does that make a difference in what happened over the weekend? Probably. It's probably not a, is it a 1 run a game difference? Are they, what it's interesting to think about because he has been the leading hitter on the team. But you're right, Dusty. I mean, 28 games into the season, Georgia Tech's hitting 335. They have 84 doubles, 6 triples, 45 home runs. Their home run totals have really ticked up lately. And then, they got 54 stolen bases and 60 attempts. So they're stealing bases at a 90% margin. They're playing very good defense. They have made a few more errors recently, but they're still making less than 1 error per game. Dusty, you still haven't told us about the pitching rotation shuffle this weekend. I think as a whole, though, like if you're looking at Georgia Tech's pitching numbers, halfway through the season and almost halfway through ACC play, 4.08 ERA as a staff, less hits than innings pitched, 110 walks in 238 innings. Obviously, a lot of those coming from Brady Jones, Riley Stanford. Conference only statistics. Let's see here. So in conference, Georgia Tech is batting .323. So not much difference. They've hit 21 home runs in 12 games, 33 doubles. So their numbers are basically exactly the same compared to what they're doing across the entire season. And then the pitching is about the same as well. 4.41 ERA, 125 strikeouts and 102 innings. So on a whole, like both on the pitching side and the offensive side, the Georgia Tech's doing about the same. I'm still gathering all the details. We'll report it when I have it finalized. Any good story requires 2 to 3 confirmations. Journalistic integrity has to be the way. You got it, pal. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, my thing is this, and Dusty and I had this conversation over the weekend, is it's getting to the point where you're getting really, I mean, Brady Jones has made, in ACC play, Brady Jones has made 4 starts. He's thrown 13 and a third innings. So he's averaging less than 4 innings per start. He's given up 13 hits and 13 walks in 13 and a third innings. So he's giving up 2 base runners per inning. It's just not going to cut it. Riley Stanford in 4 starts has gone 11 and a third. So he's averaging less than 3 innings a start. He's walked 8 and allowed 13 hits. So he's allowing 2 base runners per inning. And again, that's not going to cut it. And with the way that Mason Patel and Jalen Payton have been used, like, so you think about it, like their 2 best bullpen arms, numbers-wise, effectiveness-wise, have been Patel and Payton. Now, Patel has made 4 appearances in the ACC. He's thrown 18 and a third innings as a reliever in 4 appearances. So he's averaging about 4.5 innings per start. 4 and a third, 4 2/3 innings per appearance, I should say. So at some point, you may see what you may see happen is that, you know what, like Patel, we're just going to start him. Jalen Payton, we're just going to start him. Jalen Payton has made 3 appearances and thrown 10 and 2/3. He's thrown about 3 and 2/3 per inning or per appearance. And struck out a bunch of guys. And at some point, if you're basically just gonna hope for 2 or 3 innings out of a starter and then run out Payton and Patel for 4 or 5 innings, at some point you might as well just start them. Instead of, because the problem with Brady Jones and Riley Stanford is that, like, Stanford on Game 3 this past weekend, he didn't even make it out of the first inning. He gave up 2 runs in the first, really bad, not looking good. And so all of a sudden you're playing from behind right away. And that was really the difference in the game. That was the difference in the game. And so what I think what you're going to see happen is Brady Jones is going to stick for now on Saturday. Even though he really has not pitched, like his ERA looks fine, but he's given up so many base runners per inning that eventually that's going to slip at some point. If you look at Tate McKee, he started 4 times in ACC play and he's thrown 20 in a third inning. So he's averaging a little bit more than 5 innings per start. Which again, you'd like to see that maybe around 6 on average, right? Your Friday starter, you'd like to see go 6 minimum, really. But there's going to be games where you get out earlier. So if you're averaging 6 innings a start, that's solid for a Friday guy. But so I totally suspect that maybe you see Patel or Payton fill in on Sunday and be the Sunday guy. And then all of a sudden, Sunday becomes a tough win for an opposing team, because if you're facing Peyton for maybe it's 4 innings, he's going to throw up a bunch of zeros with the way he's pitched all year. And that gives your team on Sunday 4 innings to build up a lead. Is that kind of what you're hearing, Dusty? Something similar to that? We don't have nothing like that? Shaking my head. Yeah, and I think it's made sense what they've done so far, because you don't want to. Both of those guys, Patel and Payton, have had so much success in their roles. Like, you almost don't want to move them. But at some point, you can't. It's going to be very tough to beat good teams if your starter goes 2 innings or 3 innings. It's just very tough, because you're having to use so many bullpen arms. You're going to get to those guys that you really don't want to have to use on the weekend. And you kind of saw that on Sunday for Georgia Tech. They used like 3 or 4 arms in the 9th inning, and just none of them wanted to be the guy to shut it down. Albeit, obviously, with the first inning error, with the leadoff batter error that should have been an out. I mean, that kind of facilitated the downfall. Yeah, so I don't know who brought it up earlier about the torpedo bats that the Yankees are using. What's the number? I think in 3 games they've hit 15 home runs. Is that what it is? Can you guys verify for me? Again, it's just one of those things where, like, to me, you're not allowed to put pine tar too far up the bat, but we can change where the barrel location is on your bat to make it So if you get jammed, you actually just crush it? It's just ridiculous in my mind, but so let's look ahead here to some of the midweek matchups coming up tomorrow on April Fool's Day. All right, so we got Texas, Texas State, Georgia and Queens, Louisville, Indiana, Georgia Tech, Mercer, Gardner-Webb, North Carolina, Florida State, Jacksonville, Coastal Carolina and Campbell. This will be a good matchup. Clemson, Georgia Southern. Not a lot of like premier matchups this midweek. A lot of good like mid-major matchups with some bigger teams, but there's no like ranked matchup. Louisiana Tech, LSU will be a good matchup, right? There's a lot of these really good, like Tulane, Southern Miss should be a good game. Louisville, Indiana would be a solid game. But again, it's a lot of these just kind of mid-major, Gardner-Webb, North Carolina. Nothing crazy on the midweek. Let's see what our Thursday games look like. Thursday games, we got Ole Miss, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and Duke. Hey, Duke's ahead of North Carolina in the ACC right now, even though Duke's not ranked and North Carolina is. This will be a huge matchup. Again, North Carolina, if they want to get back in, hosting contention, they probably need to win this. But, they're 12 games in, so there's 18 games left. Let's say they go 2-1 the rest of the way. That means they're 12, they're 18, and 12. So if they win every series remaining, they're a host for sure. So they're still in a good position to be a host. If they get to 17 wins, they're probably a host. And then obviously LSU, Oklahoma. In Oklahoma will be a big series. And then the Friday weekend matchups. Georgia, Texas. This is gonna be a massive game. 2 8-1 teams in the SEC in Austin. So we'll see what if Georgia can continue dominating or if Texas is going to do that. Florida State, Wake, big bounce back weekend for Wake Forest. Again, I think Wake Forest dropping from 16 to out of the top 25 to me was a little insane. You know, they're still 7-5 in the ACC. Like, they're in really good position. So again, they take a series here, they're back in the top 25. Louisville, Boston College. I mean, Boston College sitting in not a bad spot. They're 5-7 in ACC play. Year 2 under Todd Interdonato. Could be a big series win if they take Louisville. Vandy, Florida. Again, Florida is now in like must win. Almost they have to get a sweep in at some point over the remaining part of the year, and they have to. So they're 1-8. So they have 21 games left. So they have 7 series left. If they go 2-1 in the remaining series, they go 14-7, which would put them at 15-15. Right? So they're in the tournament at 15-15, but for them to host, I mean, they got to get a couple sweeps. And they cannot lose a series. So they're in really tough position now. Alabama, Auburn. Auburn coming off the series sweep against Georgia. They're at home against Alabama. This will be a great matchup. A&M, same territory as Florida, right? Like they cannot afford to lose any more series, and they have number 1 in Knoxville. LSU, Oklahoma, we already talked about. Oregon, Michigan, this will be a great matchup in the Big Ten. UC Irvine and Oregon State, man, this is where we find out how good Oregon State is. UC Irvine has just been dominating. They're 11-1 in the Big West right now. And then Oregon State independent, but they dropped big time this past week out of the top 5. And again, they just have not played well against good competition. So this is a big matchup for them. Arizona State, Arizona. This will be a great series at Phoenix Municipal. Georgia Tech and Stanford. Can Georgia Tech get another series win on the road at Stanford? Stanford not playing very well right now. Clemson at Berkeley. Cal's been pretty good, right? They're 6-6 in ACC play. Like, they've been playing fine in conference. Just want to take a look at what Stanford's offense has been doing lately. I am concerned about this weekend. Well, I mean, I'm looking at Stanford's numbers in conference right now. So Stanford right now in conference is batting .296. They're slugging the ball. They've hit 37 extra base hits in 12 games. So they're slugging it. They're having 3 extra base hits a game, 21 of those being home runs. They're not walking a lot. So in 12 games in the ACC and 409 at bats, they only have 31 walks. So they're walking way below 10% on the year. And they have 92 strikeouts in about 400 and I'll change the screen over here to Stanford. You guys may not be able to see this very well. I'll take the chat off. And so if you look at these numbers, they're hitting the ball fine. They're not drawing a lot of walks, which bodes well for Georgia Tech's offense. Stanford's pitching has really fallen off recently. All of their starters are 6.3 ERA or higher. They're all giving up way more hits than innings pitched. They're not walking a lot of guys, which is a good thing, but they're not missing a lot of bats either. 16 strikeouts in 20 innings, 16 strikeouts in 15, 9 strikeouts in 17 and 2/3. So they're giving up a lot of contact, and that bodes well from knowing the Georgia Tech offense. Like, that bodes well. They have a lot of guys that aren't striking out a lot of guys. They only have 88 strikeouts as a team in 102 innings in the ACC to 44 walks. So, if you're looking at it on paper, and again, the game isn't played on a spreadsheet or paper, but I just think it's a series win for Georgia Tech with how Stanford has been playing recently. Like, they came out hot, like they just looked really good, but then, they beat UNC, and everyone kind of thought, okay, but UNC hasn't played very well. And then they haven't played well their last two series. Yeah, I agree, Canes. I think it should be. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I'll be back tomorrow for the midweek stuff. And then obviously after some of the games tomorrow, we'll probably do a stream later at night. But thanks for joining.